Hello and welcome to Postcards 18. Today I thought I would not look at any postcards at all, although I do have one or two of the incumbent member, but talk about the playwright Alan Bennett. Bennett is still alive and would hate to be called a national treasure, though in essence I suppose he is. You can tell this isn't scripted. He is what I would call a national treasure, and I've got some of his books and diaries here, and also some of his tapes to show you. This is one of his most recent, and in fact I think it is his most recent, Keeping On, which is a reference to the these wartime posters which have been reprinted saying carry on and, you know, eat up your baked beans or something. These entries covering 2005 to 2014. He looks back at the packed decade for highly acclaimed plays: The Habit of Art, People, Him and Cocktail Sticks, premiered at the National Theatre, as well as the screenplay for the hit film The History Boys and The Lady in the Van. I can't say I know anything about The Habit of Art, People, Him and Cocktail Sticks, but I do know about The Lady in the Van, who was Miss Shepherd, who turned up on his doorstep one fine day, and he sort of took pity on her, so to speak, although she maintained a considerable independence, really, right until her untimely demise. And he took her in, and basically, even though they didn't cohabit, far from it, she lived in a van, hence the title, outside of his house in Camden Town. She was a lapsed Catholic lady, and obviously very eccentric, possibly schizophrenic, I think, although he doesn't say that. Right, okay. Now here, in no particular order, because it's not chronological, are his early diaries. I actually had this in the old-fashioned little tapes. It says, the 80s were a busy time for Alan Bennett, actor and now diarist. Bennett's life is broader. His accounts of theatre troubles and troublesome critics are combined with his memories of writers' tour of Russia. He went with Sue Townsend, who wrote the Adrian Mole books. She was talking to the translator of the Adrian Mole books, translated them into Russian, and something about he'd forgot the names, got the days muddled up, and didn't rendezvous with her, and said afterwards that Adrian Mole book would say something like, got up on Wednesday and went to church or something, went to Sunday school. Talking about the Falklands War, Mrs. Thatcher, and the assassination of John Lennon. I'm not sure John Lennon was assassinated. I think that's a bit strong, isn't it? He was murdered. I don't think assassination, that's for political reasons, isn't it? Anyway, there you are. He would know. Here's obviously something I bought cheaply in a charity shop. I buy lots of things in charity shops. The diaries, again, it mentions the History Boys, which was James Corden and friends, not just James, of course, and the teachers and all the problems that they encountered, not all of which were insuperable. This is a particular favourite of mine, The Uncommon Reader. The Uncommon Reader is, of course, you've guessed already. Here's this isn't a play. This isn't a play. This is a little story, and he reads it out as only he can in that Yorkshire way of his. It's the Queen herself, and she starts to take an interest. It becomes an all-consuming preoccupation with HRH in reading. and it takes up a fair bit of her time. Just have a little drink. This is alcoholic ginger beer. I've never had that before. I have to say it doesn't taste very alcoholic, but there we are. This is called a common assault. He was attacked when he was on holiday with his partner in Italy. And the Italians, though they heard him out and would have gone through some judicial process, ultimately, I suppose, reluctantly. But the point was that they drew attention to the fact that his partner was a lot younger than he was, and they said, well, it couldn't have been Italians who attacked you, which is completely ridiculous because, of course, he speaks a little Italian, more than a little, Alan Bennett, and he confirmed that it was. So there we are. Here he is telling tales. There we are. This is largely reminiscences of his childhood in Leeds. He obviously did very well without being academically, and in the end did get a place at Oxford. Hampered as he sees it by a family that never manages to be quite like other families. I think that's a sort of quotation from Tolstoy. It sounds like it. In an ordinary childhood, Bennett's father was a butcher, his mother reader of women's magazines, who dreams of coffee mornings and cocktail parties and life down south. In fact, they did live down south for a year in Guildford, but it didn't work out very well. And tail between the legs, they came home again to Leeds. Here he is talking about various matters. The matchless, unforgettable journey. Seems a bit strong. There we are. And finally, Single Spies, the last little tape I've got. In Single Spies, there is a gentleman who is in trouble with the police, but he is also talking to a policeman whom he meets regularly. And Bennett sort of hints at some sort of sexual liaison, but also that no matter how forthcoming the guy is, the fact remains that he is guilty in the minor count. So therefore, no matter what he says or what he does, and he tries to assume the mantle of the highly educated by being coming late to the crease educationally. I would have thought that was, in other words, being self-taught. I would have thought that was, he also talks about Guy Burgess here, an Englishman abroad. Coral Brown played the lady that went to see Burgess when he was banged up in Russia. Just a bit more ginger beer. And the life that he led, she went back to his tailor's in presumably Savile Row or some such, and thought on her first visit there, Coral Brown, that he had an account open, and subsequently they closed it because they didn't want any sort of sniff of, high treason. Now here's a book. I have to confess, I haven't got a clue what this is about. I found it in my collection. This is why I'm showing you. You may know. Hugely entertaining and absolute joy, tender and comic. Well, I've got artfully entertaining. Plenty of Bennett's trademark pleasures, consistently amusing and full of witty turns of phrase. Well, all of that and more may be true, but I haven't read it. Now, here's something, if you're from the Lord Wandsworth end of my life, or even the start of my life, which I think you should read. Here we have Gielgud, and it's Alan Bennett's 40 years on, and it is the schoolmaster who's retiring after so much and so much. And his thoughts on the world. He sort of reminisces and then says, suddenly notices a boy and says, "Chewing, Sanderson, spit it out, put it in your handkerchief, bring it up, put it in the wastepaper basket." And it has jokes, but also it's a play within a play. I think that's important to stress that. And when he says matron, everyone goes, "Way!" And you know, and then somebody else, the headmaster, boo. And here we see the classic phrase, "See me afterwards." I'm just hesitating because I haven't gone through and annotated which bits you should see. Talking about Virginia Woolf. Highbrow layabouts, that's who they were. I have no time for them at all. The silly way of talking they had, simply too extraordinary, they used to say about the most humdrum occurrence. If you blew your nose, it was exquisitely civilized. Darwins and Huxleys and Stevens and Sarchis, all Strachey's, all living in one another's pockets and marrying each other. And they were all socialists. Why is it always the intelligent people were socialists? I think nowadays that wouldn't be the case. The answer to that question, I suppose, is the war and the threat of war and further hostilities, which may not have materialized, but the fear was always there. Now, here we have the enormous tomes. I've been through them page by page. Let me show you. This is his earliest one, I think. I bought this for £4. For some years, Alan Bennett has published a selection of his diaries in the London Review of Books. I'm pleased to tell you he still does. I've just sent for one. I couldn't get the January issue, 2021. Alan Bennett was born in 1934, so he is by now quite elderly. And he has had a scare, though he's done rather well in his treatment. Cancer scare, I'm afraid. This is the first one, begins in about 1980, I think. And he expresses his gratitude overall and gives an appreciation of people, either reprints of articles he's written for the Listener or of other publications like The Spectator or something like that. There we are. Here he is in with a very smart haircut and even smarter coat here at the back. This is an enormous tome. And he talks about going up to Yorkshire and coming back to London and problems about being gay and problems about interest in seeing old film stars. And he himself, of course, is now of senior years. And he shows pictures of people he mentions as if his mother said, "My God, you've had some copy out of me." There we are. Various characters in the scrapbook of his life. Auntie Kathleen, who worked in Mansfield's shoe shop. You'll be interested to hear. But you didn't know that, which is in Leeds. I actually know somebody that had lunch with Alan Bennett in Leeds, and I would have thought that was pretty pleasant. And nobody wanted to have lunch with him, which I think is very unkind, but they didn't. And all of them told me, television bloke was probably running about trying to glue everything together within 5 minutes of the cameras arriving, that we don't want to. And in the end, Richard, who did, was actually paid to have lunch with him, which is really dreadful. Anyway, here we are, the diaries from 2012, going up to, they aren't that recent, 2017 or something. And here he is reading, and then looking out of the window, and then with his with his partner, Rupert. And with a little dog looking out of the train window. Frances de la Tour, who appears in several of his productions, and you may remember from Rising Damp, she was Miss Jones. And here he is in the depths of introspection. I know the feeling, with his back to the camera. As he grew older, Alan Bennett did get less inhibited. He was, in his time, literally seemed to be running from his public, but latterly he did face up to them a lot better. I'm happy for him in that respect. And people sort of say, well, I saw Alan Bennett, and he sort of sprinted off, you know. But now I think if you did halloo him, to use a Stephen Fry verb, I think he would respond. I'm not sure he's too keen on signing autographs, but the fact remains he is less self-conscious, and all I can say is good for him. Well, this has been Postcards 18. I hope very much you've liked it. If any of the Alan Bennett publications are of any interest to you, but you're not quite certain where to start or where to look, do let me know, and I will make a list down below of the various titles. Thank you very much. Goodbye.